Marhaba. Hello to you. This is Natasha Abu-Fadel, a choreographer in research of the essence, meaning, reconciliation, and purpose within choreography. Of course, that naturally makes me curious in other choreographers' choices and process around how they reconcile, structure, and articulate our place in the world as movers. Welcome to Conversations on Choreography, a place to archive spontaneous dialogue and inquiry from the perspective and lens of a choreographer, between choreographers, about choreography. I curiously wonder about the choices, purposes, and meaning behind what's been composed and articulated. This platform is a mode of research investigating where choreography stands today and where it seems to be going. I aim to challenge and plant the seed for choreographers to depart from the bounded and limited realm of understanding stage dance and to participate and engage with it and through it with less of a grip and more with wonderment and the possibilities meant to emerge. I'm curious to observe and listen to the ways choreographers create. What do they pay attention to, or lack thereof, when involved in the dynamic perceptual process of building relational situations? What becomes intelligible through the relations between body, space, time, and environment? So the base question here is, what does it mean to explore the composition and articulation of choreography as being in the world through movement, as something more foundational than just the arrangement of mere steps for the sake of decorative aesthetics and presentational technical skills, but rather as a way of being through which we come to know the world, relate to others, and understand ourselves? How can creating on the basis of this question transform the ways choreographers and dancers engage and enact through the art of dance? Thank you, shukran, and enjoy Conversations on Choreography. For the first group of choreographers that I was interested in having these spontaneous conversations with, these were participants of the Cure 8 program in Oklahoma City. Cure 8 is an 8-week creative experience that pairs local dance makers with leading industry experts to produce new original works that premiere at Oklahoma Contemporary Arts Center. Through these mentorships, artists weave community engagement and advocacy for pressing social issues into their creative process. Choreographers collaborate with local social service organizations, crafting works informed by topics paramount to the community. By presenting works that call attention to specific social issues, the audience's experience is more than passive observation. It catalyzes active engagement and dialogue for social change. Curate's vision aims to increase networking opportunities, enhance artistic development and community engagement, and drive social impact, ultimately leading to growth in the local dance ecosystem. Curate is such a wonderful program, locally created for Oklahoma artists to be provided with a platform to create what's heavy on their heart and what's important to their walks of life. And as a choreographer of the first run of this program, I can say that it was a turning point in my career. It provided me with the opportunity to get to work with local dance artists and to finally have the resources and the opportunity to create what was heavy on my heart at the time. And it gave me so much courage and confidence to continue to want to share my voice. And it's been really wonderful and beautiful to see this lineage continue and to see these opportunities be provided for more local dance artists to get to watch watch it continue to evolve and continue to press on really important social issues. So enjoy these mini episodes of my conversations with the Curate choreographers of 2025.
Off the record. No, just kidding.
Off the record. Okay, so we've got Ryland here, and say hello.
Hello.
All right, so you can say answer as quick as you want, or you can elaborate as much as you want. Okay, I will start with, if you had another week or two, what would you have shifted, changed, taken away, or added?
That is a great question.
Or kept the same?
Yeah. I think for this piece specifically, because I mean the title, First Light In, is a play on light, and when you're in a theater where you have a really awesome tech crew and the people we're working with were really great, but the tech schedule was very tight. So I think that if I had more time specifically in the theater, I would have wanted to really continue to like push the boundaries on like what was possible with like specials and like light. There were some moments that I really liked in the piece where like they built this really awesome, it wasn't like a strobe effect, but it was almost like a slow like strobing across with different spots. So like as the dancers moved through them, like they would be in the light and then out of the light and in the light. And I really liked that. And I think if I had more time, like that's something I would have like
played with
into.
more.
Yeah.
Cool. So more of the production side of it rather than maybe movement or choreography.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think for me, like what makes the theater so special is you're in there with everyone else seeing the same thing at the same time with no phone, no distraction, and it's like the most immersive sort of like entertainment you can have in a sense. So it's like when everyone's there in a theater experiencing live art, like you have like the athleticism and like the musicality and the artistry and the emotion of the dancers. So then I think that what really does elevate that is like the technical elements that are like available because of the space.
Bring it to life.
Yeah. I don't know. It's something I always love about the theater.
Cool. I love that. And did you discover something new about your creative process? And if so, is it something maybe you would have liked to spend more time with or applied it to different parts of the process?
I think that this whole process was like at a very transitional type of time in my life because I was moving, starting a new job, and all of these other things are going around it. And like, that's like a hard question because it's like this isn't my like first piece anymore.
Sure.
But I also don't feel like I'm like super experienced yet. So I'm like in this like middle ground of like I've done some things and I'm like reflecting on that and I'm still trying to like kind of refine like what that creative process looks like. I think the biggest thing for me would really just be like spending more time alone kind of experimenting with movement and I don't know. That's a really tough one because I with that being said, like I don't like just coming into the studio with a bunch of steps and like just setting a phrase and moving on because there's so many of my favorite moments and things I've choreographed have like happened like by leaning into like the spontaneity of like a interesting like moment or connection and then like building upon that
in the studio with your dancers.
Like just like working with the dancers and kind of seeing like, oh, like your leg touched that way. Well, what if you like really like applied more pressure and then rebounded off of that?
Yeah.
Or like, what if you like did this with your toe? I don't know.
Totally. Yeah. Find a different angle.
Ask me that in a week.
Okay. I like that. So, but you had choreographed before this, right?
Yeah. This would be maybe like my fourth or fifth kind of like piece. So
cool.
Yeah.
And processes always change and they continue to evolve with like where
like
you're
people.
at in life.
It's like people.
It's like people. Exactly.
I think it'd be weird if you didn't. I don't know.
Right. It could maybe get a little mediocre if you don't change, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see the same thing twice.
Do you feel that your piece justified your topic and the way that you had researched around it and maybe the message that you were trying to put forth through the piece?
Yeah. I think throughout this entire process, I was kind of like terrified of that element of it because like the topic in the piece was like very personal to like myself and my family, but also affects so many people. Just like if you're talking about statistically, you're talking about 42 million people, which is 1 in 8 people.
Yeah.
You go to the grocery store, you look around, you see somebody else that like has either had an experience with food insecurity or is going through that, and that's a daily part of their lives. So I think I knew that I didn't want it to be a literal representation of hunger because I didn't think that brought dignity to the topic. And I had to play with like what that representation looked like. Was it a more personal story? Did it have more abstract elements? And I think I think my piece might have a different meaning to me than it would to somebody watching it. I think that the more personal elements are things that I might only recognize, but I do think that there was some elements of need and fulfillment of need that were like through lines through it that I really liked how that developed. But I do think that the beauty of art is the connection you have with it is what day you saw it, where you were in life, what your experience with what you're watching. And that's something I think I always try to like lean into and enjoy.
Well, and I love that you shared the statistics on today's world waking up and 42 million people not having resources to food.
When this piece was pitched, like in the sense of like a proposal was written, this would have been in July. And this was not a in vogue topic in July. It's not that hunger is something that ever really goes away, or it's not a through line of like a need in our society, but it was not something that was making headline news every day.
Politically, yeah.
So there was I think this last week especially, I felt like this huge weight of feeling like there was a real thing in the world that this could be a platform to address locally with like in my community of people I know. And yeah, it was weird how those things came together with the timing, and
almost serendipitous
in a really weird way that I didn't enjoy.
I was like maybe in a sick way.
But I don't know. A way that kind of makes you angry a little bit.
Yeah, sure, and maybe more justified to do this work, and maybe more reassuring for you that like, okay, this is something that is important to talk about, and I'm glad that I talked about it in the timing that I did.
Yeah, I think it's a really good way to put it.
Yeah. Okay, and I may have asked this to you yesterday, but once again, one word to describe how you felt when you found out you were going to be a choreographer, and then one word to describe how you feel today at the closing.
I think I was just so excited. I didn't live in Oklahoma last year when the show premiered, and I heard so much about it from my girlfriend, from friends who went to the show, and I felt like it was this really special thing that I heard about but I didn't see, and I just I knew as soon as the applications and kind of information for this year went out that it was something that I really wanted to be a part of, and I felt like it would push me to do some things I hadn't done and share things I hadn't shared. So that was really exciting. How I feel today, I think that every show, the more you perform, I think you kind of have this circle of life element with a performance where it's like the anticipation for starting the choreography in the show, and then kind of rehearsing it and the highs and the lows of that process creatively, and then all of that through Tech Week where it's like you have your first day in the theater and you're like, this is not going to work, none of this is going to come together, and then opening night and it's all magical and it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And then the last day where you hear the Marley tape getting pulled up, and
just like that,
you know that you will see these people again, but some of them you might not. And it's a really special thing I think about the theater and live art is it's that you were there in that moment with other people and felt that thing or saw that thing or had that shared experience. And I don't think that that's something that you can really get any other way.
Beautifully said. Yeah. Thank you. Is it okay if I share some things that came up for me as I watched your piece?
Yeah.
So I'm really curious about your sound score. In a weird way, the music is what really drove me and almost gave me the essence of what you are talking about. So, what was your music choice? How did that come about? Did you create it?
So there's a middle track which was a Bach, I don't know if composition is the right word or what it was, but it's a modern artist taking an older score and they named it something, and I had heard it a couple years ago and always had it saved, and there was never. I felt like it was really deeply sad, but not I think there are lots of things that carry weight or sadness, and I didn't feel like it was a romantic sad or an emotional connection with someone sad. I felt like it was just this
It had this anxiety.
Yeah, definitely.
drive to it, suspenseful.
So I had that, and I was playing around using it for this project, and like my girlfriend Paige, who I talk about a lot of artistic things, was always going, I don't know about it, and I didn't know about it, and it wasn't really like working out of context. And then I was just getting it on YouTube, and I was kind of like, I was wanting something like very like rhythmic and that had this like kind of like percussiveness to it, and like musically almost like this like haze or like driving sort of energy. And I just started Googling random stuff, and I found this artist that had maybe like 80 views, and like almost like an EDM artist. None of their other stuff sounded like this. And so I downloaded that, and I was like, okay, maybe can just be it, because it was long enough to kind of be right for the piece. And I kind of like, I don't know, I sat on it for a little bit, wasn't sure. And then I cut the first track, the more percussive track, in half, and then I put the Bach in the middle. And I really liked it, but the transition wasn't there. So there's a food resource near where I live called The Fridge, which is like a very grassroots, it's just a community pantry where people can drop things off and come, go, take what you need. And it's, I think, like one of the most like DIY grassroots forms of food activism I'm aware of in our community. And I recorded myself walking back from there to my apartment, and then cut that track in half.
Cool.
So then the first half was like the really percussive driving music, then this really meaningful, but you don't really understand the meaningful of like this, but this like real ambient recording into the Bach, which Bach is Bach, like it makes you feel some type of way, and then kind of reversing that and retrograding it back to the start.
Wow. So you composed it in a sense. You composed the order of it, and maybe the
Yeah, I don't really feel like I'm a very musical person, but I also kind of,
Interesting.
This is the second time I've done this for a piece, so I'm kind of leaning into it because I like it, because I feel like you hear things and there's something about it you don't like per se, or you wish was different, or it's not the right effect or the thing. So there's something really fun about also being able to just like make the musical element what you want it to be.
Yeah.
To like fit what you're trying to do with movement.
Yeah. That's kind of what I did with my piece too. I recorded some things that were happening in front of me right there, then and then, and integrated that with pieces of music. So that's why I think it spoke to me, because of the way you chopped it and put it together.
Yeah, I don't know. I always liked, I love hip-hop music. I love sampling, and I feel like that's super interesting.
Okay, I'm curious what you're trying to, let's see if this even translates. What are you trying to create with your movement language, and what energy, like what's the energy, what's the momentum of the movement language? Like, what kind of experience are you trying to give the dancers as they go through?
That's a great question. I think because of my background being a professional ballet dancer for so long, there will always be some sense of movement that's like rooted in like line, and I feel like ballet, if you deconstruct ballet, I feel like it's like creating points of opposition across your body that makes line, and then you add feeling to that. So I think like I try to base my movement and like that sort of deconstructed idea of like what ballet is. And I love the idea of like line, but it doesn't need to be like a pointed foot but it does need to be like energy across your body, and this like, there's never a passive moment. It's always this like, I feel like people can see when you're creating energy, and it's and like moving through it and breaking it and then connecting with like, I love the idea of like people connecting, or groups of like bodies and like lines and energy connecting. So
yeah, I'm glad you said that, because those were my favorite moments in your piece, was whenever your dancers connected to one another. And I feel like that it wasn't, not to say it wasn't often, you had a lot of like duets and trios, but all five of them together being in some sort of contact was really powerful.
And I feel like that's the hardest thing to choreograph, because you can't, in the moment, you can't give each of the five people their exact step feeling.
Of course,
so you have to kind of give them like verbal direction, and then also like lean into their ability as artists to like fill out that space while also guiding it to kind of what you want it to be in the end.
Yeah, like molded and sculpted a little bit. Yeah.
And then as soon as it's perfect, you're like, don't change a thing.
Right. Consistent every time. Yeah.
Play with it until it's great, and then stop.
Yeah, seriously. And last question, what was their relationality to one another? Like what?
Yeah, that's a great that was something that I struggled with a little bit in casting the piece and like the pre-choreographic process. I was really grateful because my mentor, Carvin Dothet Boyd, who's the artistic director of St. Louis Dance Theater, he, I think, is around a lot of the work that I like to see and inspires me. And he encouraged me to really just kind of lean into creating themes and figures and kind of, he would use like language like the North Star a lot, like it reminded the dancers of like what we're trying to make, what I hope it can be, and then we kind of discover and fill that out together. I don't necessarily in the end feel like each person represents something literally, even something literally to me in my life, but I feel like the beauty of that is then you are allowed to see what you want to out of it. And then something that I really appreciated in some feedback from the audience, but they understood that like something that was really hard to curate was there's a pas de deux moment kind of in the middle of the piece. And I didn't want it to be a romantic relationship. I didn't want it to necessarily even be like an interpersonal relationship, but it was kind of just this like tension and energy and need and satiation of that need. And I felt like in the end, like it came together and the audience members who didn't know what it was described it as that, which was like really rewarding and felt awesome. But yeah, it was like you're making a ballet about something that I don't want to say no one ever has made a ballet about, but I'm not aware of any.
Sure.
So you're kind of in an uncharted land.
Territory, yeah. Cool. Anything else you want to say?
No, thanks for coming to the show.
Yeah, of course.